Chosen one. Never try to outplay a casino owner who left the table. Let that sink in. See the twist. Thinking they'll checkmate you, they're planning and aligning their chess pieces. They don't know you won the game, turned the board, and are drinking champagne in the control room watching the replay. In competitive conditions, most people overestimate their IQ by 68%, say behavioral experts. It is. Their confidence in being wrong makes it funnier and more deadly. The kicker. You're done competing. Symphonies are being written while people clap on beat. Ego isn't involved. About evolution. You finish the game they're still studying for like their identity test. Since you wrote the book, they don't know the test was open book. Brace yourself. This isn't for the faint-hearted, the performative, or the ones still in the group chat calling you lucky. This is for the chosen. Those who know. Let's begin. You designed the board, but they're playing chess. They think they're smart as they play chess, move pawns, and plan 5 steps ahead. Players don't know you designed the board. They obey every rule and think every move is creative. You've observed, assessed, and stored every surprise strategy they throw at you. They assume you're stuck. They're in your trap. You built it from experience, from being underestimated, overlooked, or discarded. While they learned the rules, you bent, broke, rewrote, and realized you didn't need them. They assume you're stalling because you're quiet. They presume you're clueless because you're patient. They don't realize you outgrew this game. Your tranquility is misinterpreted as weakness. Their first error. You're not nervous because you've been here. Every scenario has been simulated and walked through. You're thinking about architecture and how someone like you invented the board while they're obsessed with kings and queens. The goal is to checkmate someone who is no longer on the board. You left, moved beyond the game. You controlled the atmosphere and established a new playing field where their techniques don't work. That's true power. It's not systemic dominance. Deeply understanding it means no longer needing to be inside it. They're playing to win. You build worlds. Even so, they think they're ahead. Not just ironic. It's sad because they're playing your prototype. You're not rival. Since you won and are scripting the next chapter, you're observing from above, unmoved. 2. You outgrew the battlefield. They're still dying. They're still swinging, fighting fights, attempting to prove something, oblivious that you've moved on. They're rehashing old debates and trying to drag you back into a long-gone fight. This is the truth. You outgrew their killing field. You've outgrown the need to defend yourself, reply to every shot, and prove your worth in unworthy surroundings. In a loop, they think this is about back and forth. Scenes you've healed from are repeated. They're using weapons that don't cut because your skin has changed. Your material has changed. You built layers. You achieved inner tranquility. People don't realize you digested the battle, grieved the turmoil, and built something better. They're bleeding for significance in a fight you fled to find meaning. They think they've cornered you. They mistake your silence for weakness, but it's knowledge. You know interacting isn't worth it. Not when you've got what they want. Your level has risen so far that they no longer fight you. They're plagued by your past self. They believe they can win, but you're not in the ring. You're not interested in trophies for mastered games. You're constructing peace, legacy, and futures while they yell into a room you left. Let them yell. They should combat shadows. Allow them to win a battle you no longer recognize. You've changed levels, one without external validation or survival aim. Ascended, not just alive. They haven't caught up and may never. Third, they mistook your absence for capitulation, not sovereignty. They thought they won when you quieted. Your absence appeared to be capitulation, but it was strategy. People felt you had nothing to say, but you were done explaining yourself to people who misunderstood you. They overlooked that your silence wasn't defeat. Elevation. You didn't withdraw. You repositioned. Everyone who operates from loudness will misinterpret calm. They assume loud means powerful. A constant motion equals progress. Your quietness wasn't stagnant. Transformation occurred. You were improving internally, unseen. You built longevity while they performed for attention. You retreated not because you were terrified, but because you realized your energy was too valuable to waste on minor skirmishes. They kept pushing, prodding, attempting to get you to return to a past self. They required your energy to maintain pandemonium. You didn't bite. That shocked them. Not your words, rage, or clapback, but your absence from the situation. They never understood that actual power doesn't act. It moves silently. It refines alone. Rooms without applause suit it. They tried to get you to rise, but you rose without them. Every day you were silent. You chose calm, clarity, and purpose versus proving, strife, and pettiness. Since you burned the map, they don't know how to handle your invulnerability. They realized too late that you didn't go because you lost. You quit the game because you outgrown it. That's an inexplicable win. Only quietly, strongly, forever can it be felt. Fourth, they're performing plays you wrote and then deemed outmoded. They're pioneering, using buzzwords, remixing your style, renaming your essence, and claiming to have invented it. Your old movements, methods, and mindset are being repackaged as innovation. Actually, they're performing your plays. You prepared, you set the mood. The blueprint was given out while they were learning the basics. They're on your shoulders pretending to touch the sky alone. Not even copying you is disrespectful. They removed your name from the design and pretended you never existed. They took your genius, diluted it down, and called you irrelevant. They forget you did it when it wasn't cool and no one was looking. They avoided failure, trial, and ridicule when the risk was high and the payoff unknown. They duplicated the finished product and added their branding. What makes it almost funny? Being secondhand makes them proud. They follow your first draft. Manifestations of a vision they lack the confidence to create. Because duplication lacks spirit, sequels rarely outperform the original. Its blood is different. It lacks the effort, fire, and why that gave yours power. Their mistake is trying to outshine you with your own light, but you've already changed. You've abandoned that playbook. You've moved on to concepts they can't grasp. They're pretending to innovate while you create the new reality. Let them chat. Let them parade. You and everyone else will eventually discover the truth, since the source always emerges even when copies shout louder. Fifth, you were the lesson masquerading as a pupil. You appeared silent, observant, and blending in. You were silent. It wasn't necessary. Everyone else was attempting to impress, but you paid attention. They thought your quiet meant you were late. They misunderstood your humility for weakness. But they didn't realize you were digesting while they performed. You learned what not to repeat as they spoke to be heard. You weren't idle. You collected data on individuals, patterns, weaknesses, and systems. Without declaring it, you examined the game inside out. They didn't notice your patient's precision. Nobody told them that the quietest person in the room might be the most dangerous, because they know how it works, not because they want control. You seemed like someone still finding their path. They didn't realize you were constructing internally first and deliberately. They were too focused on showing off their accomplishments to recognize you were the progress. In addition to learning the lesson, you became the one others must study to catch up. Now the same individuals who disregarded you are watching you move in ways they can't understand, not just ahead. You're the standard. You've left class. The classroom is you. They're skimming through pages for solutions, unaware they sat alongside them and ignored them. You no longer demand respect. You made them realize they don't comprehend the rules. It hurts worse because you never needed revenge. You let your growth speak, so now they had to study the unexpected pupil. Sixth, mirror checkmate. Watch them beat themselves. They were too concentrated on outsmarting you to recognize they were undermining their own position. They made every power move out of ego, not intelligence. Every trap they laid assumed you were still playing by the old rules and trying to win on their terms. But you weren't. You watched, detached, calculating unseeable outcomes. Because dominance blurred their eyesight. They didn't comprehend that every play to checkmate you was a step toward their own collapse. They came into the game thinking they could bait, trigger, and knock you off balance. You didn't respond. You pondered. You let them show. You let them swing wildly until their strategy collapsed. They called restraint your weakness. You avoided their repercussions because of that restraint. The irony hurts. They believed they were outplaying you, but they revealed their blind spots. No aggressive move was needed. You carried a mirror by remaining calm and steady. They recognized themselves in that reflection. All manipulation, insecurity, and hubris exposed. No game beat them. Beat themselves. They anticipated conflict. You clarified. Expected retaliation. You distanced them. Truth rang louder than any retort in that area. Not ready for a self-awareness war. That's your sole mastery of battle. No loss. Because you already won, they couldn't survive playing against someone who didn't try. You sought peace while they sought checkmate. That rendered them impotent. Seventh, they want to win where you've created monuments. They're battling for recognition, being recognized, being crowned, and prestige in a location where you've made history. You call ambition archives. They claim to be pioneers, but you were the blueprint, foundation, and constructor. You laid bricks with your bare hands before they arrived with their borrowed confidence and surface-level comprehension. Failure, doubt, silence, not for attention, but legacy. Their goal is to win where you've won and left. They want applause when you stopped clapping and started building influence cathedrals. They chase the crown without recognizing you owned it before you sought it. It no longer interests you. They want to be noticed, but you want to last. They don't realize you're not competing. Your building expands. You destroyed that country because you outgrown it, not out of spite. You rebuilt it quietly, in the shadows, with determination. It now represents your vision, values, and voice. They still try to impress the ancient court by dancing for titles in rooms with your name on the walls. They're trying to rule a space that wasn't created for you. Thus, their stuckness. Their wins feel weak. Since you raised the ceiling, people can't see the roof. You established the bar without defending it. They're now responding to your past actions, playing for survival. You're scripting the future, the true divide. No need for their throne. Design the entire kingdom. They live in it, whether they realize it or not. Eighth, you're not playing. The clock is yours. They're obsessed with scores and points to prove who's ahead, like an end-of-race race. You're not even on the same board, not checking the scoreboard. The time clock is yours. You choose game start, pause, and end times. They don't understand they're in your building. You manage the match rhythm while they play to win. They still think it's about competing. Who's smarter, faster, louder, which makes it unfair. They don't realize you're silent, not reacting. You're directing above the din. They're playing inside your program system and thinking they're winning. However, you built the algorithm and are discreetly changing it as people follow the manual. They think they're doing harm since they landed a move or two, but you let the game run that way. No need to follow their timeline. You're not rushed or worried. You mastered it years ago. Now you move with intention, not fear, from calm, forethought, and understanding when to move. What rattles them? No need to win. Existing outside their rules has changed the outcome. You're not trophy hunting. You write policies. Referee reports to you. You redline the rule book. You don't worry about fairness in a limiting system. Your definition of playing changed. Competing for moments. You curate motions. They still think you're on the field, but you left the game long ago and now set the clock, lights, and stadium closing time. 9. They weaponized ego. You gained identification. They're using ego-fueled criticism, sarcasm, and petty jabs to bring you down. Their approach is to undermine your confidence, make you doubt yourself, and engulf you in their drama. You're different altogether. Your ego conflicts and petty validations are over. Their adulation is unnecessary because you're the source. You embody approval, so you don't seek it. You're not seeking a stage. The stage, spotlight, and crowd standing ovation are all in you. They're exhausted from proving themselves to others and need external approval to feel whole. Insecurities and comparisons shape their identity. They shade you to make their light stronger. But they don't grasp that your identity is unshakable since it's not based on others' opinions. Jealousy and criticism can't shake your identity. Not a mask you wear, what you've become. Unquestionably reliable. Their ego is a weapon. You perceive yourself as a shield sword. Noise protection and distraction reduction are provided. They're trying to throw you off balance, but you're holding solid since you've moved past their approval in battles. You've established your own world without rules, so you don't play in theirs. You've upgraded to identity, while others used ego to battle. Since you're not noise, they can't win that game. The quiet you generated has them lost trying to find you. Number 10. You were their predicted storm. They spent hours mapping your moves, habits, and next steps. You never provided them assurance, a pattern to exploit, or something to grasp onto. You're unpredictable. You're the wild, violent storm that can't be contained. They thought they could predict your downfall like a weather report, yet your turmoil had purpose and accuracy. You break game rules. You alter its environment. Assumptions, comfort zones, and expectations underpin their strategies. They anticipated repetition. Mistakes were expected. They anticipated reluctance. They received an unyielding force that moved forward unpredictably. You're unstoppable like storms. You're needed, not irresponsible. You upend things. You modify the landscape and bring unstoppable change. They sought to box, label, and limit you to their understanding. Storms disregard borders. You remove barriers, overturn outdated systems, and bring clarity by shaking everything loose. Their attempts to contain you made you stronger. They became less prepared for your evolution as they examined your past. Your power goes beyond nature. Your power is intentional. Every thunderclap and wind blow is measured for brilliance, not mayhem. This makes you terrifying to those who try to control you. You don't comply, therefore they can't foresee you. Not following the forecast. They were unprepared for a storm. They anticipated a typical forecast. You left metamorphosis, growth, and an untamable power as they raced to adjust. Number 11. They're exercising unnecessary muscles. They still use noise, flash, and raw force to show strength and be recognized. Flexing irrelevant muscles. Their force is clear and tiring. They define success by how much they can control a room or assert their will. But you've entered a new power level that doesn't require boasting. You work by resonance. You're influential without volume. Vibration causes it. Think about this. They pound the drum to generate the most noise, believing their energy will overwhelm everything. That's unnecessary since your presence bends reality. Existence commands attention, so you don't have to holler. Your silent, profound power shifts everything around you without a single move. While they exhaust themselves attempting to dominate, you quietly align energy, effortlessly attracting people and possibilities. This isn't about bragging, owning yourself so totally that your energy produces gravity. Don't demand respect. You ask naturally. You don't discipline. You set the mood. Others feel your presence before seeing you. This is true power. It doesn't need proof because it's obvious. It alters the environment without violence. Resonance lasts longer than muscle flexing, making this much more profound. Loud power needs constant upkeep. It drains mind and body. Resonance power is effortless, ageless, and true. You move with purpose, aim, and quiet conviction, changing events and people's views without fighting. It's not coercion, making things come organically from your being. The circle of loud competitiveness, attempting to prove themselves with every move, continues. You've left that cacophony because you know real influence is felt, not loud. Energy like this impacts the game without saying so. Power comes from presence, vibration, and resonance. You don't need to flex muscles since the world responds to your frequency. Number 12. You killed the game and invented a genre. They're still attempting to defeat you at a game you abandoned out of boredom. They believe the rules are set and winning is always the same. You know better. You played more than the game. You killed. You slowly undermined the previous system until nothing was worth competing for. You've abandoned the scoreboard while they're still vying for points. They're frustrated because they can't follow you. They're not bad, but you're not playing on their field. You've transcended rivalry into creation. Since you're setting the stage, you're not competing. Building something new and unprecedented makes it impossible to compare. You went from player to pioneer. You're defining winning, not chasing transient wins. You no longer have to prove yourself and fight for every inch. Or you've altered the rules to favor your development, creativity, and impact. So their checkmate attempts feel useless. They want to solve an equation you replaced with a fresh formula. Not only ahead of the curve, bending it. You invent and elevate while they copy. You create a genre to break free from established norms. Success is just your beginning. You're starting a new movement that makes the game unrecognizable and their strategies obsolete. Thus, their efforts appear to chase shadows. You change everything when you win. Once the game, rules, and players are defined, competing becomes unimportant. They're stuck in your past while you shape the future. You killed the game and created a new genre. Now everyone is trying to match your legacy. Number 13. They don't see your 4D holographic grid game. They think in black and white. Push or pull, win or lose. Their world is two-dimensional, straightforward, and predictable. You play in 4D on a holographic grid. Your moves go beyond the following turn. They spread over numerous time frames, complex realities, and hidden impact they can't comprehend. You see calculated investments where they see failure. Every loss was never negative. Choosing to sacrifice was a strategic move for growth. They're focused on instant results, while you're organizing long-term effects. You play more than the game. You redefine reality around it. They use linear, reactive, shallow methods. They demand immediate, simple cause and effect. But you grasp complexity. You consider layers, echoes, and looping, multiplying effects. Expect reactions they don't know exist. While they chase quick wins, you establish legacies. Because of this, their checkmate attempts always fail. They're using techniques that ignore your multidimensional thinking to trap you in a game they hardly understand. 3 moves ahead, you're playing chess while they're playing checkers. On multiple boards at once. Not even you make mistakes. The design is holographic. Complex patterns that only make sense at the correct time and angle. Because of their narrow vision, people don't see the big picture. In the end, they fight on a plane you departed long ago. They're in their binary boxes while you weave universes with a vision beyond their comprehension. Instead of just winning, you're bending dimensions and producing outcomes they can't predict because they don't understand your game. Number 14. They had no idea the checkmate was game over. They worked hard to corner you and deliver the final blow to achieve checkmate. You let them think they won because you walked away, not because you lost. Their victory dance invited you to turn up as a transcended player, not a competitor. You concentrated on something broader than the bits and points they were preoccupied with. Their honesty, peace, and soul never realized that power comes from not beating opponents or dominating the field. Knowing when a game is over is key. You gently left while they fought for power and approval, refusing to allow their definition of winning define you. They thought checkmate meant death. It was the start of your liberation. You changed the story by losing. You proved that mastery is about freedom, not trapping others. You refused to follow their rules, timelines, or expectations. They played the game, but you lived the life you wish outside their restricted vision. They'll never understand this power. That leaving with your soul intact is the ultimate triumph. The one move that can't be predicted, countered, or replicated. It's not about dominance or control. This is about self-rule. Checkmate was played as a final blow. A door was played. You left them in a meaningless game when you crossed. Beyond winning or losing, you transcended. Such power resonates beyond the board and lasts forever. They never played the game you mastered. While they tried to checkmate a position they had secured, you created, evolved, and redefined the rules they thought they understood. This goes beyond outwitting opponents and winning fights. It shows the power of transcending the struggle. Strength is quiet and calm. It's calm, thoughtful, and based on certainty from knowing your worth before acting. You won more than a game. You constructed a new universe while they played chess. True checkmate was your refusal to be limited by their game, not their victory. That refusal has more power than any trophy. Power that cannot be taken or diminished, not just a player. You are the architect, storm, and quiet afterward. Definitely the greatest victory. Subscribe and join the movement if this resonates with you and you're ready to rise above the noise. If this video changed your game perspective, like it. Comment below with your experience or perspective and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your contribution helps us keep going. Let's construct, evolve, and rewrite rules together.